Okay, good afternoon to all of you. Am I audible and slides are visible? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Can
Yes,
respond.
sir.
Okay. So today we will see the after what is coming that last class we have seen this how to select the best project and then how to proceed further. Selecting the which model you will go for, like waterfall model, spiral model, incremental model, etc. How depending upon the characteristics or the natures of projects we can select which model we should use. So today we will see the next step of that the systematic approach that model I have shown you. So we'll go to the next step. Today main emphasis on the project estimation techniques. We'll basically see introduction to project estimation, project planning, then what are some of the important concepts or basics of project estimation. I have shown last class the stepwise approach. Last class we are discussing about the analyzed product characteristics, and after analyzing the product characteristics, we can select the appropriate model to develop the software or the project. Next is identify the products and the activities. What will be the final product? What will be the intermediate product, and what activities will be required for producing these products? Those you have to identify. That is easy. Next step is step 5, that is estimate effort for activity. This is very important. After identifying what will be the final product, what will be the intermediate products, and what activities are required for this, then what you can do, you can go for what this step 5, where step 5 says that you have to estimate. What you have to estimate? You have to estimate the effort for what? For all the activities, those will be required, those will be followed to produce the necessary products. So today's emphasis on step 5, the how to estimate the effort for individual activities. Okay. So now let's say what makes a successful project. How you can make your project successful. What are the factors? What you should follow? First is delivering. This is one important aspect to make your project successful. Delivering means there are again few sub items are coming, like agreed functionality. In the SRS document, what you have written, which functionalities are agreed upon by both the client as well as the developer, you have to achieve that. You have to deliver the product which will contain the functionalities which are agreed by the two parties, the client and developer. Okay, so first thing is we should stick to the agreed functionality between the client and the developer. Then you should deliver the end product on time, on the appropriate time. You should try to avoid any delay. At the agreed cost, the final software product or any project you are taking, the final product should be delivered at the agreed cost. You should not charge more at the end. The customer will be irritated. With the required quality, whatever quality they have mentioned initially, I have already told you there are several quality standards. So what quality they have insisted on the different functionalities, you have to produce the products with those desired or the required qualities. Then what stages you must have to follow to make your project successful. Okay, what stages you must follow to make your project successful? Two important stages. Number one, you have to first set the targets. In order to produce the final product, what targets you have to do. So you have to first set all the targets. Then to attempt to achieve targets, you should take some attempt. First you are setting the target, then how can achieve the target, you have to take attempt and necessary action you should do, necessary execution or necessary necessary actions you should follow to attempt or to achieve the targets. Take the necessary attempts or take the necessary steps to achieve the targets. So these things will make a project successful. Okay, but always you may not get your project success. So you have set for two stages. I have told you have to first set the targets, then you have to do something, you have to attempt to achieve all the set targets. But what if the targets are not achievable? There will some situation where the targets are not achievable. You are trying a lot, you have put your best effort, you have attempted like anything else, you have put huge attempt, but the targets are not achievable, in spite of putting all your best effort, in spite of putting the best attempts, still the targets, they are not achievable. So what will happen? So let's see. But what if the targets are not achievable? If the targets are not achievable, what you should do? So how to make the project successful? These things are the subject matters of today. Let's see how we can make our project successful. So for that we require an effective planning. You should make your plan in an effective manner, in an efficient manner, so that your project will be successful. So in order to make your project successful, you have to make your project planning thoroughly, very efficiently. So today we'll first see the introduction to project planning. Normally in a project, there is one project manager. A project manager's activities are varied. The activities performed by the managers will vary from manager to manager. Okay, a project manager's activities are varied. So the activities those are carried out by a project manager, they can be broadly divided or classified into two categories. One, project planning. Two, project monitoring and control. Okay, first is how to make a plan for your project. Then once the plan is made, the work will start. Then you have to monitor the progress of the project, and wherever required, you have to control if your project is going outside the schedule or something else. You have to, beyond the control, you have to do some steps to bring the project into proper control. You have to control the project if something happens. So these two steps, so all the activities are divided into these two major categories. Let's say first, project planning. So once a project is, so I have already told you, when you will take up a project for development, before that we have carried out the feasibility study. We have prepared the business case. Then we have found that yes, the project is found to be feasible in all respects. That means it is technically feasible, financial feasible, and operational feasible. Then only we should take it for what we will take it to develop. So once a project is found to be feasible, the project managers undertake project planning. So if you found that out of the several alternatives, one project is found to be feasible, or this is the best project, then the project managers, they undertake project planning. So initial plan is made before development starts. So before the development starts, you have to make an initial project plan, and then you have to update the project plan frequently. Then regularly, as updated information comes, as some new information come, you have to update the initial plan. Okay. So the initial plan is made before development starts, then the plan is updated frequently or regularly. So let's see what are the different activities those are coming under project planning. Three important activities. First, you have to perform feasibility study, then make a plan or project planning, then execute the project or project execution. In project study, in feasibility study, what you have to do? You have to ask whether the project is worth doing. If I will take up the project, whether it will be technically feasible, financial feasible, and operational feasible. Is it worth doing? If yes, then you have to go to the next phase. Next stage is next activity, plan. Make a plan. How do you do it? How do we develop the project? Make an initial plan. This is called as project planning. And after making the planning, next step is project execution. Try to execute the project. Follow certain actions. So try to execute the plan. Okay. So project execution, try to implement the plan, try to execute the plan. Do it. Okay. Carry out it. So these are the various activities coming under project planning. Now let's say in detail what the exact activities that you have to look at during project planning. These are the overall activities they have to be carried out during project planning. Now let's see the other activities, the activities in detail for project planning. So project planning activities are, these are the major project planning activities. Those are shown here. We have to do some estimation, then scheduling, staffing, handling of risks, and some miscellaneous plans. These are the major project planning activities. During estimation, we have to estimate the effort required, the cost required, the resources required, and the duration that will be required, the time. So these things are coming under estimation. Then we have to see project scheduling, how much time I should give for which activities, that is called as project scheduling. So under this, you will see CPM and POT under project scheduling. Staff organization, here will require how many staffs will required for this project and for this activity, how many staffs are required, whether the staffs can be interchanged or swapped, the roles of the what staffs can they be swapped like this. So this is staffing plans or staff organization. Then another planning activity, risk handling. We have already discussed a little bit about risks. So how to identify the risks, how to handle the risks. Under risk handling, we will discuss how to identify the risks, then how to analyze the risks, and then how to abatement or contain the risks, the different abatement or containment procedures for risks. So finally, you can see some miscellaneous plans like quality assurance plan. Under this, you can see ISO 9000 series, Six Sigma, ACI, CMM, those things. Then configuration management plan here we'll see, and some other things. So these are the various project planning activities. Let's see in detail what are the further details of project planning activities. So these are the details of the project planning activities. The first step, these are the steps of project planning activities. First is identify the steps which are required to accomplish the project objectives, because I have already told you in my that stepwise procedure. The zeroth step is the first step is what? Identify the objectives and the scope. So first step is identify the steps which will be required to accomplish the project objectives. Then identify what are the tasks needed to be done at each step. So in each steps, what tasks you have to perform, identify them. So these tasks can be, the tasks, what are the sub-tasks, what are the sub-tasks. So these things, they can be identified using a structure called as a WBS, work breakdown structure. I will give an example maybe in next class or so. Then we have to estimate. Third step is estimate how much effort each task requires. Okay, each task will require how much effort. We have to estimate that. We'll see different methods for estimating. One such method is what we can see COCOMO, that we'll see in detail. Then fourth step is estimate the resources required for each task. For each task, how much resources are required, estimate. Then calculate how long each task or step will take. Okay, so given step number 3 and 4, calculate how much time, how long each task or step will take. Then given step number 4 and 5, estimate the different tasks, steps, and the project cost finally. So objective is we have to estimate the cost that will be required to develop the project, estimate the project cost. Then determine the interdependencies of tasks, if any, whether there is any task dependency, between two tasks that we have to decide. Determine the interdependencies of the tasks, if any. Prepare the schedule for each task and the whole project. Okay, then you have to prepare the final schedule for each task and the whole project. For each task, you can prepare the schedule that this task should start when and finish when, like this. Project the schedule. Which task will be started and finished, when the whole project will be started, and when it is expected to be completed. So we have to prepare the schedule for each task and the whole project. We have to prepare the milestones for different steps or activities, the deliverables, including the final deliverable and the intermediate deliverable, the cost that will be required, the payments that we have to make, things like that. So these are the different activities that these are the different steps you should follow during project planning activities. Okay. Then comes, let's see, why project planning is required. If you will not do project planning, what will happen? So because this project planning, why proper project planning is required? Because project planning requires utmost care and attention. You have to make the project planning very accurately with proper care. Let's see why. Project planning requires utmost care and attention because commitments to unrealistic time and resource estimates can result in the followings. You do not know the planning methodologies, planning techniques, and suddenly you have said that your project will just be completed in 1 year. But actually you have not studied, you have not made the plan properly. It may take 2 years, 3 years. If this will be a delay, what will happen? Obviously, the customer will be dissatisfied. Next time he will not come to you, he will go to some other vendor. So if you will not make proper project planning, then you can make some commitments which do not have any value. They will be underestimated or overestimated. Okay. The commitments will be very much unrealistic with respect to time, and the resource estimates may not be proper. So if the what you have not made proper planning with respect to time and the resources, then what will happen? It will lead to irritating delays. Delays will be increasing, so customer will be irritated. And if there is a delay in delivery time, obviously the customer will be dissatisfied, customer dissatisfaction. Adverse effect on team morale. If you are going to loss and the project is taking more time, it is taking more what cost than the estimated amount, then it may put adverse effect on the team morale, and hence it will ultimately lead to poor quality work. And finally, it may be the case the project gets failed. So it is possible that if it is so poorly planning, then the project might lead to failure. So that's why these are the reasons why proper project planning is required. But as I have already told you, don't make a plan for the whole project at a time. You make it in incremental manner. First, make the initial project plan. Then do after 1 month, you see some new information is getting, some updated information is coming. Then you accordingly modify your plan. Then after 1 month, again you review. If any new information comes, or you are going according to your plan. If not, you are deviating from the plan. Then you make necessary changes. 3rd month, again review the plan. Again modify if required. So in that you have to do, make the plan in an incremental and just in the fashion of sliding. So that will give you more accurate planning, because you are taking the up-to-date information into account, and your plan will be more proper, it will be more accurate. This planning is known as sliding window planning. Just like the plan is just moving, sliding, instead of making a single plan for the, or just a single plan for the whole project at once. So sliding window planning, it involves project planning over several stages rather than making the planning in one stage. So if you will make the plan over several stages, what advantage you will get? The project managers, okay, it will protect the project managers from making very big commitments too early. Initially, from the day one, they will not say that we can complete within 6 months or 1 year. It will protect the managers from making very big commitments too early to the customers. They will be able to say, okay, tentatively it is 6 months or 1 month, but actual one I can say after 2 months or so, like that. So from the very beginning, they will not make big commitments or unrealistic commitments. More information becomes available as project progresses, isn't it? As the project progresses, you can get more information, and this will help making accurate more, and this will help making the planning more accurate. Okay, so since more information will become available as the project progresses, this will facilitate accurate planning. You can now make a better planning. The planning will be more accurate. So that's why you should go for sliding window planning. You should try to make the planning over several stages instead of making in one stage. So I have already told you, in any software development lifecycle model you follow, at the end of one page, you will get some document. Like during after requirement analysis, the document you will get SRS document. After design, you will get DFD, GML diagrams, data dictionary, etc. After coding, the code itself. After testing, the test report, like that. So similarly, after this project analysis or during the project analysis, the results of your findings you must put in a document. That document is known as SPMP document, which stands for Software Project Management Plan document. So after the planning is completed, you have to document the plans where in a document called as SPMP, Software Project Management Plan document. Okay, there are all the findings you should write there, you should mention there. Then what will the contents of the SPMP? Very easy. First, you have to write down the introduction of the SPMP document. This will contain the objectives, scope, major functions of the project, the performance issues, management and technical constraints, etc. That will be written in the introduction section. The next section is project estimates. Here you have to mention the historical data of the project, various estimation techniques you have used like COCOMO or function point, etc. effort, cost, and project duration estimates. So by using these estimation techniques, how much value you have got for the, what is the estimated value for the effort, what is the estimated value for cost, what is the estimated value for the project duration, that you have to mention there. Then you have to write the project resources plan. Here you have to write who are the resources. You have to make a plan how to allocate which resource to which project or to which task. Resources such as the people, hardware, software, special resources, and how they will be assigned, allocated to which task, that you should write down in the project resources plan. Then you have, there will be a section on schedules. Here you have to mention, to draw the work breakdown structure, the task network, Gantt chart, reference on POT, CPM, etc. They will be discussed in the schedule section. Next section is the risk management plan. Here, how to identify the risks, then how to analyze the risks, how to estimate the risks, how to abatement or how to contain the risks, those will be written. Then project tracking and control plan. Here we have to track the performance of the project, how we are moving, whether we are moving in the right direction, whether we are moving as per the schedule. We have to track the progress of the project. Also, we have to control the progress of the project. If it is going beyond the control, we have to bring into proper control. We have to make some plan for this. Okay. So the next thing is project tracking and control plan. And final one is miscellaneous plans. Here you have to make how to tailor the different processes, quality assurance like ISO 9000, Six Sigma, ACICMM, etc., configuration management, etc. We will take special classes for these quality assurance and configuration management if time permits. Okay. Now we will come to the proper topic, fundamental estimation. Now let's ask some of the fundamental questions regarding this estimation. Fundamental estimation questions. What is the size of the software to be developed? You have to estimate. Okay. So whether it is a very big project or a very small project, you have to know the size. You have to estimate that. So first step is what is the size of the software that has to be developed. Then how much effort will be required to complete an activity? Okay. How much effort you will require to complete an activity? Next question you should ask how much calendar time is needed to complete an activity. And then you have to ask what is the total cost of an activity. You have to estimate what will the total cost of an activity. We can represent, so these things we have to estimate: size, effort, time, and total cost. They can be represented using a figure. Let's see that figure. So now, before going to that figure, let's first see what sequence you should follow. I have already told you 4 things you have to estimate: size, effort, time, and cost. So what will the first step? I should first compute size or effort or time or cost. Let's see. So first we should determine the size of the project. Then from the size we should determine the effort needed. And then from the effort we can estimate the duration and the cost. This is the sequence. Please remember, first size you have to estimate. Then you have to estimate the effort. Then you can estimate the project duration and the cost. This can be represented in a figure like this. As I have already told you, first estimate the size. Here you will see the different size estimation techniques such as LOC and function points, etc. Then from size you can estimate the effort as well as the duration. From effort you can compute the cost. Then from effort and duration you can estimate the staff level required. Then from duration and from the staffing you can prepare the scheduling. Which activity will take how much time, when it will be started, when it will be completed. So from the duration information, from the duration information and the staffing information, you can estimate the schedule. You can prepare the scheduling chart. You can develop the scheduling activities. So these are the sequences of parameters of the estimations and the scheduling. Now let's say a brief idea how to estimate the software cost. What components you should look at while estimating the cost. So software cost of components, let's see what components are have to be considered while estimating the software cost. 2 important costs we'll see, like hardware and software cost, then travel and training cost, because any software either you purchase or develop, for that you have to make so many travels and you have to also give training to your employees that have to be what considered. Let's see what are the other components, if any. Yes, we have to see the effort costs. While finalizing the software cost, we must look into effort cost. While finalizing the software cost, we must look at the effort cost. So here, under effort cost, we'll see that mainly the salaries of the engineers that will come here. This is the most dominant factor in most of the projects. Then next cost is overhead cost. In overhead cost, we have to think of the cost that we are the cost of building. That means the building that we have taken as rent. What is the cost? Then or you have developed yourself the building. What is the cost that you have required? That may be divided into several years or among several projects. The heating cost, lighting cost, cooling cost, etc. Cost of networking and communications, cost of infrastructure, cost of shared facilities like library, staff, restaurant, and these, if any, what you can say, any what canteen or so, those things you have to consider. The rule of thumb is that as much as the effort cost. So this overhead, it should be as much as the effort cost. Normally it is taken. So this is how these are the various components of your software cost. So before actually the effort is measured in a term called as PM, where PM stands for person month. Okay, the effort normally it is expressed as PM. PM stands for person month. You must understand this, very important. It's not equal to month means 30 days. Now let's see what do you mean by person month. Very often it is asked in the examination. Suppose a project is estimated to take 300 person months to develop what? To develop. Okay. So I think there's a mistake. I think it should be suppose 30. Suppose, let's see. So suppose a project is estimated to take suppose 30 person months to develop something. So now the question is one person working for 30 days is same as 30 persons working for 1 day? Okay, let's see. Is one person working for 30 days? Is it same as 30 persons working for 1 day? Anybody can say? No, it is not same. Why? Let's see. So how many hours is a man month? Let's see. Then we'll try to find out the answer. How many hours is a man month? The default value is 152 hours per month. It is so 152 hours per month is known as a man month. So this person month otherwise also known as man month. Somewhere you will see it is written PM or somewhere it is known as MM. PM stands for person month, man month stands for this, MM stands for man month, almost similar terminologies. The default value of man month is 150 hours per month. Why this 150 hours came? Because it is assumed that so in a month 19 days people will get and per day 8 hours. So 19 days into 8 coming to 152. So a man month is equal to 150 hours per month. So this is the definition of person month. We will express the effort in terms of person month. So then why we are considering person months? Why not person days or person years? What's the reason? We are considering only person month, not person days and person years. Because the modern projects normally, typically they take a few months to complete, isn't it? They take some months to complete. But then if you take person year, it is clearly unsuitable to represent this effort. So person years is clearly unsuitable. You could have taken person days, but what will the problem? Person days would make monitoring and estimation overhead more. If you take person days, then this if you take person days at the unit, it would make monitoring and estimation overhead very large and tedious. So people are taking what? Person month at the unit rather than taking person days or person years at the unit for expressing the effort. Now let's see quickly little bit about the costing and pricing. The estimates are made to discover what? The estimates are made to discover the cost of producing a software system. Okay. The estimates are made to discover the cost of producing a software system. However, there is no simple relationship between the development cost and the price charged to customer. If you see, there is no simple relationship between the development cost and the price which will start charged to the customer. So several other factors are affecting, such as broader organizational, what maybe you can take those factors. Broader organizational factors, economical factors, political and business considerations or political and business factors. So these considerations influence the price charge. There's no simple relationship between the development cost and the price that will charge to the customer. Here, you see, this is the cost estimation process. We require input the requirements and other cost drivers. We'll see some cost drivers later on. I think these can be some of the drivers you can consider, like organizational factors, economical factors, political factors, and the business factors, or these may be considered the drivers. We'll see some other cost drivers later on. So for the cost estimation process, we have to take into account for the estimation process, we have to take into account the requirements and the other cost drivers. This may give rise to you the effort that will be required, the development time required, the number of personnel required, and the cost required for developing the project. So this is the overall view of the cost estimation process. As I have already told you, these are some of the factors like broader organizational view, economical, political, and business factors or considerations. They influence the price charge. Now let's see quickly some of the factors they are affecting the cost or the pricing. These are some of the software pricing factors, like market opportunity. What is the market opportunity? What is the opportunity that your product will take a good market? It can be sold in the market. Then cost estimate, uncertainty. How much uncertainty they are in your cost estimation? Some contractual terms. What are the contractual terms that you have been given? Requirements volatility, whether the requirements given by the customer, they are fixed or they are modifying. Volatile means the gas, just like the volatility changes. So the requirements, how frequently they change. If you have everything else you have fixed, the requirement is frozen, then later on the customer is coming, no, I want a change in the requirements. Obviously this will affect your price, because you may require more equipment, more manpower, more days will be required to achieve those new requirements. So the cost will also be affected. Okay, so this is also affecting the pricing of the software. Similarly, financial health, this is also another important factor for software pricing. So the implications of those factors are explained here. You please read yourself. Okay, so finally we'll look at this words of wisdom. Here it's saying that unless a software project has clear definitions of its key milestones and realistic estimates of the time and money it will take to achieve them, there is no way that project manager can tell whether the project is under control or not. So if a manager wants to know whether the project is under his control or not, how he will be sure, how will be ensured? Unless a software project, it has clear definitions of its key milestones, all the milestones have been properly set or not, and whether all the realistic estimates of time and money have been properly prepared or not. Okay, and whether realistic estimates of the time and money it will to take achieve them, whether they have been properly made or not, then there is no way that a project manager he can tell whether the project is under his control or not. So this the little bit knowledge we should remember. When are the estimates required? During which phase the estimates are required? Like during the we have so three important phases: in project initiation phase, project planning phase, then project execution phase or start of the project stages. During initiation phase, we must estimate the time, cost, and benefits in the project definition. During project planning phase, we must estimate these things like time estimates in the project schedule, cost estimates in the project budget, and cost and benefit estimates in the business case or the feasibility study report. Similarly, during project execution or start of the project stages, we must estimate the time and costs, which will be reconfirmed for this stage. So, so these are the what phases, and we have seen which estimates are required in which project phase. Then quickly let's look at some of the problems with estimating. First one is, these are easy, please read yourself. So subjective nature of modes of estimating. because this estimation, if it will vary from one person to one person, if it is subjective in nature, the subjective nature of much of the estimating, it may be difficult to produce evidence to support your precise target. You have estimated, but there is no evidence to support your precise target, to support your estimate. So this will be again very much important if you are making subjective estimating. So getting some support or finding some evidence to support your precise target is quite difficult in case of what this project estimation. There might be some political pressures. The managers, they may want to reduce the estimated cost in order to win support for acceptance of a project proposal. They know it will about 10 lakhs will spend, but initially they will say that only 8 lakhs will be spent. If they will deliberately reduce the cost to win the support for acceptance of a project proposal due to some political pressures, then also while you will go to reality, it might take another 2 lakhs more, then you will be in problem. This is another problem with estimating. Changing technology, you know, nowadays technologies are changing very rapidly. What technique is established today, it is invented today, tomorrow it may be obsolete. So then you have to migrate your project from the old technique, outdated technique to the new technique. This will take some time to learn. This will also make import some more cost. That is another problem. So these changing technologies might bring uncertainties, especially in the early days when there is a learning curve, because initially you have to take some days for learning to learn the new technology. So that will take some more time, and that time it may initially it will slowly go up and then it will come down. So this will take more time. That is so changing technologies is another problem with estimating. Then projects differ. As an organization, you are handling 10 projects. It's not that one project experience will all the experience you will use in the next project. So because the projects are normally different, so experience on one project may not be applicable to another, because one problem may be student information system, one project may be in student information system, another project in railway reservation system, another project in inventory management system. So all the projects, they differ. So experience gaining on one project may not be applicable to another project. So these are some of the problems with estimating. Okay. So two important things we'll see: over and underestimating. What will the problem if you will make overestimating? What will the problem if you will make underestimating? There is a law called as Parkinson's law. This law says that work expands to fill the time available. So if you are having some work and you are having some free time, the work automatically expands to fill the time available. Take an example. Suppose you are having a work that has to be a project or some task, it has to be finished within 10 days. And you have finished within 7 days. But never you will show that I have finished 7 days, give some other work. You will try to go to library or canteen or somewhere else to to fill up the those leisure times. So what you will do that what the meaning that if there is a work, it actually takes less time, but you have extended more time, then the work expands to fill the time available. You will just go to a canteen, library, etc. to or doing some internet thing, etc. or WhatsApp business to fill the slack time. So the work expands to fill the timetable. This is the Parkinson's law. Very, very important. You please remember. The work expands to fill the time available. So now let's see, as I have already told you, there might be two possibilities. This is suppose what is the real estimation, the right estimation. You might overestimate or you might underestimate. So let's see in underestimate what is happening. Underestimate. So advantage is no overspend, isn't it? 10 days means you might have spent 9 days, but it cannot be 11 days. So advantage is no overspend. But disadvantage is system is usually unfinished, because actually it will require say 10 days, but you have estimated 9 days. So you will be under tremendous pressure. Within 9 days you have to finish. So system may be unfinished. The disadvantage that the system is usually unfinished. It may be incompleted. The system is usually unfinished. There is another law called as Weinberg's zeroth law of reliability. It says that a software project which does not have to meet a reliability requirement, then what will happen? It can meet any other requirement. If you not having any specific requirement regarding reliability, then accepting reliability, it can meet any other requirement. So the point of speaking is that you must have a target that this should be my reliability requirement. Then you should try to meet that reliability requirement. If you don't have to meet a reliability requirement, obviously you will work here and there and you target to something, your objective different. You may meet any other requirement. So let's see the effect of underestimation. What is the problem of underestimation? The research results confirm that the motivation and the morale, they will be lowered with a highly aggressive target. As I have already told you, if it should take 10 months, but you have underestimated as 9 months, then obviously the employees will be the developers, they will be under pressure. The motivation and their motivation and morale will be lowered with a highly aggressive target, because you have, it requires 10 months. You have put only say 8 months or 9 months. They will be under pressure. Their motivation and morale will go down. They will be lowered with what very aggressive target. You are a manager. You need to show your boss. You have estimated that it will be finished within what 8 months or 9 months, but that will take 10 months minimum. But showing your what capability you have just hypothetically told. So this will put what pressure on the employees. Motivation, their motivation and morale will be lowered. Underestimation can lead to abandonment of the project. So the employees, they will be so much demotivated, even if they cannot do proper work, the quality will be poor. In such cases, the project, it may lead to abandonment. It may be cancelled. Okay, so the research results confirm that underestimation can lead to abandonment of the project, because the developers, they will usually respond to highly pressing deadlines with substandard work. If you are giving very less time, you will press that finish within 1 month, then the developers, they may respond. The developers usually respond to the highly pressing deadlines within a very short time with substandard work. The work quality will be very poor. So these are the basis for successful estimating. How you can make successful estimation? Collect information about the past projects. There is a need to collect the performance details about the past projects. Collect the information such as how big were they, how much effort or how much time did they need. Those data you collect, those information you collect. Second thing is need to be able to measure the amount of work involved. You should be able to measure the amount of work involved. How much work was involved in that task or in that activity in that project? You should measure in some way. Then only you can estimate for your current project. So need to be able to measure the amount of work involved, either in the, if you can know for the past project, you can measure the amount of work involved that will involve in your future project. So traditional size measurement, you can use the one of the metric is size, but the traditional size measurement or that metric for software is what? The traditional size measurements for software is lines of code, LOC. The traditional size measurement for software is LOC or lines of code, but lines of code has several problems, but known to have several problems. It has several problems. Next class we may take about lines of code and we will see what are the advantages and drawbacks of lines of code or LOC. So as I have already told you, don't make a single estimate. You make an initial estimate, then try to refine it, revise it. Let's see why you should refine the estimates. Refining the estimates. Let's see the reasons for adjusting or refining the estimates. Because the interaction costs are hidden in estimates. So while you have made the initial estimate, you might have included the interaction cost, which should not be there. So you have to refine or revise the estimates. Sometimes the normal conditions do not apply. So considering that the normal conditions will be applicable, we have made the estimate, but sometimes you will see the normal conditions do not apply. So you have to refine the estimate, you have to revise the estimate. Things go wrong on projects. You have thought something, but the project is going in another direction. The things are going wrong on the projects. So obviously you have to change, you have to refine your initial estimate. Another reason might be changes in project scope and plan. Initially you have identified this will be the project scope and accordingly you have made the plan. But subsequently the customer has come and he has given some new requirements. The scope is changed. accordingly you have to change the plans. So due to the changes in the project scope and plans, also you have to adjust or refine or revise the estimate. So this is why it is at all important to initially you may prepare an estimate, or initially you may prepare an estimate, and then you have to refine the estimate later on as more information is coming. So periodically you have to look at your previous estimates and you have to refine the estimates accordingly. So adjusting estimates here, the time and cost estimates of specific activities are adjusted, isn't it? The time and cost estimates which will be required time and cost estimates of specific activity, they are adjusted, they are refined. Why? Because as the risks, resources and situation particulars, they become more clearly defined as you proceed. So as the project proceeds, the risks, resources and the situation particulars, they become more updated, they become more clearly defined. So there's a need to adjust or refine or revise the time and cost estimates of the specific activities or the tasks. So today we have discussed various activities carried out during project planning. We have presented the output, the document where we have seen the document where the output of the project planning activities will be recorded. That is known as SPMP, or Supplier Project Management Plan document. We have discussed today some basic concepts of project estimation. We have taken all those things from these two books. Please have a look into this. So any doubt, please, up to till now, please ask. Thank you very much. Yes, any doubt, please? Yes. Yes, please. Somebody wants to ask something else? Yes, if any question you can ask. Okay.